like that?
That was awesome.
Yeah? Okay. So my name's Austin. I'm the composer. That's what I'm here for and for this interview. But so I write the music. I also oversee the sound operation. I'm the guy with the headphones bossing Robert around. So offset, I'll be just spending hours and hours at my keyboard, taking a full day to write this is what I'd imagine 8 bars would look like. Other than that though, you can attest to this. I enlisted as a producer, I believe. Yeah, and that's not just, I didn't pay for much, but it's just because I drive around. I drove you around, I drove Robert around.
You drove Robert home, I believe.
I sometimes fed people. Whatever a producer does on a 0 budget film.
Everything. They do everything.
Much, yeah. Hell, I started playing music in 4th grade. Before I went to Exeter, I actually went to a little Catholic school called St. Catherine's. I spent 2 years there for 3rd grade and 4th grade. 4th grade, they actually just introduced their first music program there. So they had, I call it an instrument petting zoo, where you have all the little kids and a bunch of stations set up with different instruments. I gravitated towards the trumpet, and that's what I picked and played through high school. So 4th grade until high school. In my senior year, graduated, played trumpet. Other than that, I play guitar. I picked that up in about 5th grade. Wasn't really that great at it and interested until a few years ago, and I started getting into it. I also do a lot of recording on the side as well, other than the film. So my musical interest, it's pretty much been throughout my entire life. And as far as our project, I've always been kind of interested in writing stuff, writing music, and listening to, not only just classical music and obviously film scores, but, video game stuff, because I'm a gamer, intrigued me. As far as just the theory stuff, playing trumpet, what I started on, you learn to read music, and just doing that's music theory. Then you get into it more and start playing in groups, understanding the different sounds around you and the different parts and the arrangement, and that again itself goes into a lot of music theory. So the more you play and the more you perform, the more you play with people and different styles, the more you understand what sounds good together, what doesn't, what instruments work well, which ones don't. But then you take it a step further. When I was in my senior year of high school, I took an AP music theory class, so that kind of just cemented a lot of knowledge that I may have already had. Some was new, some I knew already, but it kind of helped me not really understand it more, but comprehend how it works within, say, a piece of music. Looking at a piece of music, and I can tell you what this chord does, why this one comes after it, why he chose these melody notes over this harmony, all that stuff. So it kind of just enhanced my understanding of it. Didn't really, I shouldn't say it didn't really do anything else, because it's kind of laying the foundation here. Yeah. And understanding all that stuff helps you write and create.
So it gave you the book smarts that you needed to really take your ideas further.
Yeah, because there's book smarts, and then you have to use it practically. Yeah. And then this stuff, what we do, and what I'll do for you, behind the scenes, is all practical, which is a lot harder than spitting back information for an AP test. Yeah. So my first film scoring experience, if I could sum it up in one word, I'd probably say, at least on my end, incomplete. I say incomplete because, obviously you were there. You wrote the damn thing. Took us 2 years. Acting was great. The story was, for what you were doing at the time, obviously it was your best work at the time.
I've gotten better since, is what he's saying.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But as far as music goes, I mean, you know, I threw you some ideas here and there, you know, and essentially what you put together as the soundtrack, you know, that video on YouTube, that's, you know, associated with the film. I listened to it, a lot of that stuff, it just was, you kind of threw together all of the ideas that I gave you.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were like polished and completed or not, just to get the
yeah, just to get the runtime.
Yeah, just because, I mean, you and I we worked jobs that came before a lot of this stuff, and we never really had time to really sit and work on it. So,
yeah,
you know, I'd be working on stuff in between. You know,
I lived 90 minutes away and had no car.
Right, exactly. So it was just kind of like unfinished. You know, yet the ideas were solid. It just wasn't like
the follow through wasn't there.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to say it's bad, you know, because the music itself was okay for the film. But I think it's, you know, honestly just like the rest of it. I mean, even I would say you would have a lot of issues with that film right now. And if you could go back and do it again, you'd definitely do it differently. You know, same with me, music. You're like, yeah, I really wish I could have finished that idea or had the time to really polish an actual track before putting it into a film. But that's the unfortunate part about having this as like a more of a hobby, some people would say, than an actual career yet. I mean, honestly, a lot of the times I want to say I have a clear-cut process, but it's not that simple. A lot of the time it's just going to be me at the keyboard here, you know, playing some sort of melody or a couple chords together. Whatever catches my ear, I say to myself, that sounds good. See if we can build something with that. And it's usually off of one particular piece. Then you can kind of work around it and build. The keyword's build. You know, I don't always have a whole symphony in my head that I can just put out on a piece of paper right away. I don't really think any composers do. Most of the time it's just me messing around until I find something that sounds good, and then I'll work at it. And again, like I said, usually it takes me like, if I do like one dedicated day of working on this, I'm probably only going to get like 60 seconds of solid music out. Yeah. And it's mostly just like a piano mock-up. That's the process, I guess, is I'll get an idea, then I'll flesh it out on a piano to get the chords, get the melodies, get the harmonies right, transitions right. And then I have to take that and put it onto other instruments and arrange it and create an orchestration out of it, which is a whole nother monster.
Actually, I had a question about Mockingbird. This is not on the list, so forgive me for stumbling over my words. What was your process specifically for Mockingbird? Like getting any musical ideas kind of flowing for that one?
So I have like one like big idea that I've been working on and kind of refining for the past month or so. Again, I was just at my keyboard, and I think for this one I just started to play a little bit of a melody. And then I take the notes of the melody, I figure out what works underneath it, and then practice it on the piano because I suck at playing piano. And then just kind of roll with it. And then once I have it down to a point where I think I can play it confident enough where I'm not screwing it up every 5 seconds, then I can start to change it and maybe add certain sections. So that's kind of where I am now. Like I've added a bunch of bits and pieces and parts together, and I've practiced them enough where I can confidently play them to the point where I don't have to worry about playing it as much as I have to worry about where it's going to go next.
Yeah.
And so it's really just about taking I think I have like maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 ideas together right now, just figuring out where I want which part, where I want which idea, how I'm getting between them all to make it a nice cohesive, flowing piece that doesn't sound like it jumps, that doesn't like hard cut into something completely different.
Yeah, you don't want 4 different pieces of music slammed together.
Yeah, that just sounds sloppy, and it's not always just crossfading. So that's kind of the process, I would say.
Okay. And then this one kind of goes into a little bit like what you talked about earlier when you're talking about your love of games and stuff like that. What are some of your musical inspirations? People or productions or whatever.
People, productions, okay. My first really, the first thing that I really probably listened to extensively was the Halo 3 soundtrack. But other than that, I mean, sticking with scores and soundtracks and stuff, I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, so John Williams is up there. You see, he sits at a piano with his notes and his pencils and his
physical
staff
piano,
paper.
no computers anywhere in sight.
Yeah, and then he writes Star Wars or Schindler's List.
Just for funsies.
Or Indiana Jones. # goals. Other than that, though, I mean, like, you and I talk about this all the time. I mean, Hans Zimmer. But favorite pieces of music, let's kind of stick with the whole film score environment and video game stuff. Contrary to popular belief, I don't really listen to all that much classical music, so I don't really have like a Mozart or a Beethoven piece. I will say my favorite piano piece is by Chopin, and I mistake the name of this every time. I can't remember if it's Nocturne number 2 op 9 or number 9 op 2, I forget.
Nocturne something.
It's Nocturne, one of the Nocturnes that he wrote. It's really, really well known. But it's one of my favorite piano pieces ever. I mean, Never Forget is like, if you're a Halo music enthusiast, you just don't not like Never Forget. It's kind of like sacrilegious if you don't. What is it? One Final Effort or One Final Effort's like it's like the in-game version of Finish the Fight, because Finish the Fight is the end of the soundtrack, but that just like brings the whole thing together. I really do like his Destiny work as well. If we're still continuing with the talk about game music and my favorite games, game soundtracks. So for those of you who don't know, Destiny has its original soundtrack. Before they parted ways with Martin O'Donnell, he wrote what was supposed to be like a musical predecessor called Music of the Spheres, and there's one segment called The Ecstasy, which is really
like taking ecstasy.
I mean, I've never done that, but I would imagine if I did and then listened to that song, I would never have any enjoyment for anything else ever again musically.
Because you peaked.
Yeah, exactly, because I peaked. If I could pick one from Hans Zimmer, man, the thing is I don't really know a lot of the names of his stuff. I'd have to look them up, like track by track wise. But I think my favorite work from him is Interstellar. And you know, it's not just the instrumentation, the melodies and stuff. I think it's cool and you're the one who introduced me to this story, that Chris Nolan gave him a piece of paper it wasn't even this whole sci-fi epic, it was a note pad that said this is a story of like a father and his child. And then he says, write something about that. And I just think that's a cool way of how he conceived that entire like film score. The entire soundtrack was off of that one basic like synopsis. We're getting into all the nitty gritty director, music composer, sound guy, chemistry. This will be fun. So my first reaction when I see a script, how many pages it is. Honestly, you think I'm joking, but that is the first thing that gives me anxiety about your scripts is how long they are.
Yeah. I know.
But I mean, I'll give it a read through, and you know, I don't read much. I don't read many books, but when I have read books, anything fiction, you know, I need to be enticed to come back and read it and stay focused on it and stay hooked to it. So that's the first thing I look for, is if I get kind of roped in right away with how you start it and how it goes, you know, up until the climax and then the resolution and stuff like that.
And you'll tell me if it sucks.
I will tell you if it sucks.
You'll text me immediately and be like,
I
I'm
will
going to
also
finish this.
consult my wife, who is very good at writing and very good at telling stories.
Very good at telling me that I suck.
That as well.
So, in relation to Mockingbird, have you seen I mean, obviously you did Abigail already. You have your issues with it.
Yes.
But you at least started and, you know, saw through Abigail even if it wasn't the way you wanted.
Yeah.
How did that affect you going into Mockingbird and sort of approaching that?
Well, I mean, so having a project out there that's really not that it doesn't represent me, but I don't think it represents not just me, but our best work. I mean, it gives you a little bit more of I don't know if you want to call it a chip on your shoulder, or a little bit more of an incentive to do better.
Yeah.
What was your mindset? Back on track here. So musically, I mean, since it felt unfinished, I wanted to, number one, finish a track, like not just have the demo part of it done and thrown into the film, but actually have a mock-up and work on the mock-up for the arrangement. And then with the arrangement, make sure all of the sounds are the best I can make them sound and mixed, and then get them to the film. Because that's what didn't happen in Abigail. I had a bunch of ideas that were terribly mixed, terribly arranged, terribly performed while I was recording them, and then were thrown into the film just because of time.
Yeah.
So
how's that October release date deadline feeling?
We'll see. I mean, I think once I have this first piece, we can see where we can stick it throughout the film. Perhaps maybe cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, because it's August 5th or August 6th right now?
Yes, 6th.
So we're looking for an October-ish.
So we got 2 months. I mean, if I hammer this out in the next month, you know, it's an attainable goal. So before we go here, I figured it'd be a good idea to introduce you to some stuff I've been working on, just so you guys know, what it may sound like. Obviously, it's a work in progress, but I think it'd be cool to play a little bit of the piano stuff I have that I've been showing Marty back and forth for about a month now. So here goes.